I think this is not the correct path because this is the training. I don't want this one. Go to desktops. Okay, guys, so just to give you a refresher of what we did yesterday, we did this API call where essentially we integrated our app to the network. We basically called this API to get all the data and which we logged here, and then we saw if with the data we were able to set the global state. So we triggered an action for that, and that got triggered. And yeah, from the code side, essentially, we go to source, we wrote this context to create the context in the middleware we were calling the API. And then we also wrote this service inside of which we have the uh, our API created. So, so, uh, so yesterday, we had what we have is like we have the data in our system, but we don't do anything with the data as of now. So today we are going to use that data in order to, in order to make things work. So let's come back to our code and input message. Is it? Okay, so yeah, we had the data and now we go to the home, we have the nav bar and the search bar, and here we are setting the data. Okay. So let's now render our card section. Okay. So far we haven't been using the cards. First of all, let's remove all the console logs from our code that we did yesterday. All right, so let's come back to our home section. In here, we are rendering the nav bar and the search bar. Here, we will also render the card. So we just import the card component. It should be inside the elements. Yeah. So in here, we render the card. Now the card in itself is not going to do much. Okay. Maybe we just keep this console log here so that we can get an idea of what data is inserted. In the set products, we are seeing response.data.products. So we will do that here also. Okay. And in the cards, if you render the card directly, it's not going to do much. Actually, if you go back to your code, you'll see that this just shows Adidas shoes in $5. And this is nothing. This is like when I was creating. Yeah. So when I was creating the cards component, at that point of time, we just hard coded some values here like Adidas shoes and $5 for this to work. Now we are going to like properly see what is required in the card. So if we go back to our code, go to the dev tools and see what is being logged here. So you see for each product, we have a brand name, we have an image URL, you have a name, and you have a price. So inside the price, you have the current price inside which you have the text for this. So you don't have to append a dollar, you can directly access it from here. So there are like many more data related to a product available here, but I think what's the most important of them for us is the brand name, then you have the image URL, then the name and the price, which is the current text. Okay, so we should be able to receive, we are already receiving the image source here, the name here, the price here. Okay, but the card also requires the brand name. So we will put that also, brand name. Okay. So all these things are there. So image source, they should get appended here. And in here, there should be brand name. So we will just write brand name here. And we are going to have one more section for the name of on the product, and then we will have a section for the price. So this is how our card is going to look like. Now for the timing, so since from the home page, nothing gets, no prop gets passed into the card. So remember, like we can pass, okay, I'll tell about it later on. First, let's pass the props into the card. So we have the data in our product state. So all we have to do is to spread this product state. So we come here with so products, we map the products, and for each product, what we do is we render a card. Okay, and for each card, so it's gonna, the name will be product.name. The brand name is going to be product.brand name. Image source is going to be product dot. So remember in here, I think it was image URL. Yeah. So here it should be image URL. And so name, brand name, image source, and one more thing was there. What was it? Price. Yeah. So the price, we write the price here. Product dot price. Okay, so price in itself is an object if you see the data. So price dot current dot text is what we want. So price dot current dot text. Okay, so we send all this data from the card component, and yeah, so this is going to render our cards. Let's see how it gets rendered. So it gets rendered something like this, which is absolutely not how we want the cards to be. Secondly, we don't see the image here at all. Okay, so let's see what went wrong. We go to the card. So this is the source, image source. Yeah, and in here we are passing the image source. Okay, img source, it was img source. That's why. So, okay. So now you have some image which is kind of broken at the moment, and you have some data. This data is what we received from the API. Now we are showing it in the cards, but obviously this is not how we want. First, let's fix the image. So what's wrong with the image? I think, so let's go to the data and let's see what it is. So in the image, you see image.asos.media, the protocol is not provided. So I think it's an issue with the protocol. What you have to do is in the cards, maybe here, you can write something like https // then add a plus so that you append the two strings and that should work. But remember, this is not how you should do it. Okay, I'm just showing it to you like this just for simplicity. But actually, if you have a situation like this where this protocol or HTTPS is not appended to the image source, then what you should do is wherever you're getting the data for us in the home section, when we get the data here, before setting the products or within the both the local state and the global state, you should actually change the this image URL and append HTTPS to the data and then save it in the store. So how you're going to do it is like you have the response.data.products. So just do response.data.products and map all the elements, individual product, and for each product dot image URL should be equal to HTTPS plus product dot image URL and then return this product. Okay. So you can store it in some variable, product list maybe, and then you can append this product list here. Okay. So this is how you should do it. The reason is that, for example, if some other component again requires to use the image, then it will again have to use the HTTPS in its own components. Better to put it in the data itself. Okay, so this is what you can do, but I will not do it for now. I'll do it like this for simplicity, but remember, you should never do such things. Like if you do that and go to the reviewer will definitely reject your code. Okay, so let's save it now and see if it works. Okay, yeah, so now you're getting all the data at least. Okay, and the data is there in the card, but yeah, but first of all, like they are like stacked one upon the another. So what I want is like the data to be like 3 in a row maybe, and then you move to the bottom sections. So I think you might be getting an idea of what we need to do in order to achieve that. I talked about Flexbox, so we are going to use that only. And basically we are going to start our styling. Okay, so we have the parent div, which is card. Okay, let's do one thing for each of the card. Let's uh, let's wrap it up in a div. Okay, okay, page doesn't have styles, so it's okay. Let's come here and let's start off with the styling of the card. We already have some things defined here. So one thing we require is the all the cards to be flexed. So we apply display flex to the parent component. Where is it? This is one. Yeah. So let's apply the display as flex. And okay, let's see how it goes. First, if we have to like do all the styling, it's better to do it here. so we get an idea of what's getting applied. Display, let's say flex, and justify content space between. Okay, and let's say flex direction should be row. Flex direction should be row. Okay. Okay, so this is getting applied to individual cards. So that's not what we want, because, and that's also logical because we are applying the styles to individual cards. We need to wrap it up in a parent component and then apply those styles. So what we are going to do here is we will remove this flex from here, and we will come to our home page. Here we will apply, wrap it up in a div content. And we apply the styles here. So we have to create a folder, name styles, the styles, we have the styles.css, and in the home, let's say class name equals container, and we import the styles. And now coming here, we apply container display should be flex, justify content space between, flex direction should be row, and flex wrap should be wrapped. Let's see how it goes now. So yeah, we now have the cards somehow, like in some fashion, coming like this. So one of the reasons why it's happening is because for some of them the name is longer. So this is not something that we want. So we will do some additional styling to mitigate this. Now let's come to the card style section. Here we have a card content. So we will, okay. Let's first fix the width of each card. Let's say the width for each card should be 30% of the viewport width. Okay. Now it comes like this. Okay, each card, so the parent container should also have some padding at the top. So we will also apply that. So where is it? The home page. So here we will apply some padding. Padding top, maybe 3 viewport height, or maybe 5 viewport height. Okay. So now you have some space, and what I also want is for each of the, cards to be wrapped up. So we apply some border to each card. Let's say 3 pixels solid black. Right. Okay. And for each card should have some margin so that they can differentiate from each other. So it should have like margin top to be, maybe 3 viewport height. Okay. Now you have all the cards, and they're like, there's some, difference between each of the cards. So this is pretty much what we wanted. Now let's do a few more things before we can actually conclude our card section. Check. Yeah. So what now the next thing that we want is for our, this new balance, and we want to differentiate our, if you go to the card section, we want to differentiate the product name, okay, should be product brand name. So let's write it like that: product brand name, product name, and we product brand name, product name, and product price. So these are the three things. Right now they're coming as one line. So we don't want that. Okay. So we want to differentiate it. So let's take card content for starters. So let's come back here. Right, card content. So let's come to card content, and in here we write. So we first do some flexing. So let's say display, let it be flex, and the flex direction should be column. So in that way, all the data will appear in this fashion. Okay. Now it's fine. So the next thing that we want is for our cards to the this what do you call, the name or the brand name should be purely like clearly visible with larger fonts. So first let's select a color for the fonts. Let's go to materialize colors and we choose it from the color palette. So let's take maybe blue color. Now we are talking here about something that is to be put on white. So maybe we choose a darker shade. So something maybe this one. Okay. Now for applied some color to it. Now we want to change the font size for this as well. Should be this font size. We want to change it to maybe 2rem. Font family should be, let's give it this. And font size and font weight. Let's give it some weight, maybe bold. Okay, now let's see how it affects. Right, so now all the brands are like clearly visible and highlighted. Now how we want, so for the, what do you call, the, what can I say for this? Yeah, for the description, we want it to be of the same color. It's just that it won't be bold and it will be a little bit smaller than the title. So we just come here, we go to the card section, we go to product name, and we come here. So let's copy all these things because it's going to be the same. The only difference that we are going to have is this font weight shouldn't be there. This font size should be maybe 1.5 rem, just a bit smaller than the, yeah. So 1.5 rem still looks pretty large. Let's make it 1.2 rem. Okay, still a little bit large. Let's say 1 rem. Yeah, 1 rem looks fine. Okay, and now the price. Now the price, how we are going to show it. Let's come back to our card section. The price. Right, so the color is going to be the same for This one also, or maybe we choose a different color. Let's see. Hmm. Maybe we can give deep orange. No, I think it's better to stick with the theme color. So we will go with the one that we already have. So we'll choose the color to be this one. Uh, the font weight, sorry, okay. The font weight is going to be bold and the font size is going to be 121. Yeah, okay, that looks okay. Uh, Now, but there's this one problem here, which is like if you see that the contents are not properly aligned. So this I mean the title comes as it is, but when you see here the price is a little bit at the top. Here the price is almost touching the borderline, and in the third one also it's almost touching the borderline. So it's not consistent across the cards, and that doesn't make our UI look very good. So we can clearly see that what's the reason for this here. Since the description is just like one liner, so it leaves a lot of space, but here the description is like a few lines, so that's reason this doesn't, that's the reason it kind of touches the border. So in order to fix this, what we can do is like we can set the width of the we can set the width of the this uh, I mean the description part, so that it always takes the same amount of space. So let's come back here. And this was the name, I think. So if we go to the cards, yeah, it's the name. So let's come here and let's set its width. Sorry, not width, height. Let's set its height to 2 report height. So in that way, okay, 2 is a little bit smaller. Maybe let's say 5. Okay, 5 is also not working. Maybe 10. Okay, yeah, 10 looks okay. Yeah. So now what you can see is like all the price and like in all the cards, the price are like at the same level. Okay. So yeah, and that's what makes our cards a little consistent. Now there are like two things that we also want to add into our cart. One is like, add to cart and add to wish list. So these two things are also something that we are going to do with our cards. Like in every card, you will have some add to cart option, and then you will have the add to wish list option and all those things. So yeah, that's something that we are also going to do. So we need to include those two buttons in our cards also. So let's come back to our card section and let's include these two buttons here. Okay. Div, let's define new div, which let it be called class name is card actions. Yeah. Now, so there, as I said, there are going to be two buttons, add to cart. So one is going to be like plus. Okay, first of all, we don't want to waste our time designing some random buttons. Like we can always write the CSS for, but no, for those buttons, but we just don't want to waste our time. So let's get some cool buttons from the internet and we will use it in our app. So let's say, let's write button CSS and you'll get a bunch of options from here. We just need to select one of them. So let's go here, 92 button, beautiful CSS buttons. And since we are using the blue, So I think this will match our this. So we copied the content from here. Now we all we have to do is just paste the CSS in the CSS file. So yeah, so let's first change the um, instead of button 10, it will just be called button. And here also instead of button 10, it will just be called button. And this HTML part is not required because we will be writing it anyway. So that is all we have to do. Now in the card section, we will create two button. Class name should be button. And so one of the buttons is going to be plus. And then you have something in between, some number or something. I'll tell you about it after some time. Class name should be button here. And let's put it some minus. So here it will be minus just to add the content. And the third one is going to be the button class name should be. So this is also a button. The class name should be button itself. And the button name should be add to wish list. Okay, that's all. If we come back to our code, so let's see how it worked out. So right now it comes like this. Again, we have to align it within a row. So we'll do the same thing. We will take the card actions. We will go to style.css. And we paste the card actions here. So the display is going to be flex. And the flex direction is going to be row. And justify content is going to be space between. Okay. Now it looks something like this. So I think maybe space around may work better. So let's just apply, let's just see how it goes. So we go into a debugging mode now. We have our card actions. Here we have the space between. So instead of space between, if I apply space around would be like this. Space evenly, space between would be like this. Space evenly. So is space evenly or space around? Okay. Yeah, I think this one looks okay to me. Yeah, I think this one may be better. Let's stick with this one, which is space around. So we will go and change our code from between to around. Okay. Now code has changed. Now what we want is like, so what happens is like, let's say if a user wants to buy this Puma shoes, then if he clicks on the plus, then this should increment, and if he clicks on minus, then this should decrement, and whatever quantity he adds here, that should be like visible in the cart section, like whatever quantity he wants. So in order to handle that, let's come back to our cart section and let's create a state. Yeah, for each card, we create a quantity and we create a set quantity equals to use state. And for initially, it should be 0. Now we write some function to handle the state update. Function increment quantity. Let new count equals to quantity plus 1. And let's simply set the quantity to new count. That's all we do here. The decrement quantity is going to be the more or less the same kind of function. increment quantity, going to be the same kind of function where we will subtract. The only thing that we have to see is that the quantity shouldn't be less than 0. Okay, so if the new count, so let new count be equal to new count less than 0, then it should return 0, else it should return new count. And then we set the quantity. So that's the only check we had to keep for the count section. Now we can simply associate our buttons. One more thing I was thinking, like this should be minus, this should be plus, just a UX thing. And yeah, so on this, on click of this button, we execute the increment. And here, we click of this button. Yeah, and whatever the data that we have currently, which is stored in the quantity, we just want to show it here. So we just change it to quantity. That's about it. So for each of them now, if you click here on the plus, that's going to increment it. Okay, it doesn't work. Let's see what's wrong. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop. That's a warning, and that's okay, because so what for this I told you once that if you are rendering a kind of a list, then each list of the list item should have a unique key prop for its identification. So what key we are going to provide? Let's say we provide the index value of that, and for the card we provide the index. Okay. Now this warning should disappear. Okay, I should have a unique key prop. I think we have already given that. Yeah, the warning has disappeared now. Now let's see if this works. Let me click on the plus. Okay, I think we have kind of messed up here. So on the click of a plus, it should be increment quantity, and on the click of a minus, it should be decrement. So this should be decrement. Save this, come back here, refresh this. Now, if you press on plus, it comes 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And if we click on minus, quantity decreases. And if we go further down the minus, then obviously nothing happens. The same thing happens for all of them. Okay. Okay, let me see one thing. So if we come here in the button section, oops. Yeah, if we come here to the button section, I think there is some padding applied. We don't want this padding. So we come here, oops. Okay, not this one. Okay. Right. Yeah, so that's fine. Um, that's pretty much it. So I hope now that we have the data in our system, now we are also able to show the data into our app, okay, with each of the image and whatever we want to do. Um, so we still have like 10 minutes, so maybe I can, but it will require the integration with events, so I'll not do that today. Okay. So tomorrow, like in our tomorrow's session, what we'll do is like we will do this add to wish list. Like when we click on this add to wish list, this should come up here. Like it should show up somewhere here. If we click on the card, I mean the quantity, then it should appear in the card section. And and maybe if once the data, for example, if you reload this, you'll see that for some time this is blank. That's because the data is being fetched from the server. So up till that time, it should like show some spinner here, right? So yeah, so that's something that we will also implement uh, once we are done with it. So yeah, these three things we will do tomorrow, and all of them has got to like for all three of them, wish list or adding to cart or the spinner. All we have to do all every time is like simply call the uh, like in the context you have the reducer. So if you remember, we already called this set product data action through our actions here. So from tomorrow, we will create some more actions, and using those actions, we will trigger the state update. And based on that state update, you will be able to see the data here in these sections. Okay, so that's all. That's all from today's session. If you guys have any question, you can ask now.
Soumendra,
Yeah.
do we need to install only React Router DOM?
Yeah, no, for this one, no, because we have not defined any
Not for
router.
this one. In general, last time you said to install something for the project. Means 2 days back. Is that React Router DOM?
Yeah, so React Router DOM, yeah, if you have a project where you're implementing some routing, then yes, you will require React Router DOM.
And in my project, while I'm doing general practice, I'm always getting this statement. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Let me stop sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. For every project application, I'm getting this download the React Dev Tools. What is this? Do I need to do something for this one?
No, React DevTools you don't require. This is just like a recommendation, nothing else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing,
So it says,
I will show. Yeah. While I'm installing React Router DOM, I'm getting this message.
Which one is it? Like 74 vulnerabilities? This one?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
but see, it is saying to type this one to run.
Yeah,
I,
so that's not, yeah, that's
I
not required.
it, not true.
It's not required. Like, did you already did that? Like, did you audit it with
Yeah, I
force?
did, but it is like rotating again and again. It
Yeah,
is.
okay. So I'll tell you what this does, NPM audit fix, and what happened to your project. So basically, you installed something called React Router DOM, and it has got some vulnerabilities associated with it, like their security vulnerabilities, but they can be like moderate or high or anything like that. Until unless it's critical, it's not really an issue. Okay, and React Router DOM is a very common library used in many different applications, so you don't need to worry about the vulnerabilities coming in. Now coming to the section of uh, but since like it is still there, that's why npm should also show this message to the user that okay, fine, there are vulnerabilities even though you don't care. The second thing here about the npm audit fix and what it does is that so npm audit essentially finds out all the child components or all the dependencies. For example, let's say that there's a package called lodash. Okay, LODASH. The now you might be wondering, like, I don't use this package. Like, I use React Router DOM, I use Redux and others, but I don't use Lodash. But most of your of your dependencies like React Router DOM internally uses Lodash. And if there's some vulnerability found in Lodash, then maybe you have to upgrade it. So what happens is when you run npm audit, it kind of upgrades the packages which has vulnerabilities to it. And then what it does is it travels to the top and basically sees all the packages and then updates them accordingly just to make it compatible with the package that it has with that had the vulnerability which it has upgraded. Okay. So sometimes
Mhm.
what happens is if you do npm audit fix, it will upgrade all the packages happily. But sometimes what happens is, for example, the React Router DOM only works on a certain low dash version. Okay. It now the thing is, if you upgrade your low dash version, there's no equivalent upgrade available for the React Router DOM. So what happens in that case? That case, npm audit fix fails, and then it asks you to do npm audit fix minus minus force, which is to forcefully audit your packages. Now, what it's gonna do is that it's gonna forcefully upgrade your Lodash, but there's a high chance that your build is going to fail because your internal dependency has upgraded, but there's no what you can say, comparative or corresponding version for the parent package. Okay, so this is the problem that's happening, and that's why perhaps your build might be failing. So what happens when you do npm start?
Uh, so, uh, it, does my React Router DOM already installed or not? How to check it?
So in order to check it, you have to go to package.json. There you will find that there's a dependencies key. Inside this, will have your package name mentioned, whatever it's installed. So you can go to your package.json file, which will be in your root directory only. Yeah, just scroll down. Yeah, so that package.json file. Yeah, double click on that. Now you see that in the dependencies, you can see React Router DOM. Yeah, in the dependencies. No, at the top. Yeah, this one. React Router DOM 6.4.4. Did you get it?
Which number is it?
So
Ah,
it's
yeah,
line number.
11th
Yeah,
number.
yeah. So
11th
line number.
line.
So that means that React Router DOM is installed.
Oh, By looking at this message, I thought it is um, related to that router. So
No.
uh,
So
why?
I say reference error app is not defined.
Mhm.
So if you come back here, come back to your code. Let's see. So I think that there's some issue with importing and exporting the app. So can you go to app.js, export default app, then okay. Then can you go to index.js, then import app from app. Okay. Okay, looks good to me. But app, I think it should work. Uh, yeah, I think it should work. Let's see. Can you run npm start? Okay, it says expected assignment or function call instead saw an expression, and React must be in scope when using JSX. Okay, and app is not defined. Can you give me control?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sorry, Amanda. I need to drop. I'm leaving. Thanks, Amanda.
Okay. Mm, So what is this React DOM client? We don't require that. Okay. In the app.js, first of all, there's okay, but there's an React must be in scope when using JSX. Um, React is in scope only. Oh, okay. So remember, import React should be always at the top of your imports. Okay, let's see now. Okay. Hmm. Goal and states one expression. Node.js line number 4. Okay. Right, so it seems like we are missing out something here because React is defined in the state, in the scope, and the app is also defined. So let's see what's going on here. It's about so okay.
Is it sometimes work as a shutdown and on the system again even while refresh it? Is it work anytime like that?
No, it shouldn't be like that.
Okay.
Um, so why have you defined this HTML file? Okay, anyways. Um, oh, okay. What's going on here? Oh, okay, I got it. So we were checking some other app.js. You had some app.js within this yours truly. I don't know why, but this is the app. So your root element gets created here in the index, and you're injecting the app here. But if you go to the app.js file, there's nothing defined here. That's why it's giving the error. So
This is a root file, but my app, this is yours truly app.js is different. This is direct source app.js is different.
yeah, so basically to start your React application, the place where you're creating your root div, and then what you're injecting into it is what's gonna matter. I mean, within your usually it's just a component. It only gets loaded after your app and index gets loaded. So that's the reason why the error is happening. Did you get it? So inside yours truly, you have certain components here, and this app.js and index.js. Index.js makes sense, but app.js doesn't make sense. And inside this index.js, you're creating a div, a root element. Again, it does not make any sense to have within a component, why would you create a root element? Because the root element is always created at the top of the app, which is in the index.js in the root directory. It should be created here.
So are we not supposed to create index.js in our own component, like own folder? Or
Yeah, so I got your confusion. So no, the thing is we create index.js within our components also, but the reason for doing that is different. Okay, we do not, inside the index.js that we create within our components, we do not create a root element inside that component. Okay, because your root element should be one and it's already created at the start of your application. You don't need to recreate it.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Then
in the
how
index,
can I use?
yeah, sorry, come again.
Then how can I use the index.js within my component or application?
Oh, no, you don't need to use index.js in your component. Okay, so you are asking like when I was showing it to you, I was creating index.js within the
Yes.
component. Yeah, so I was creating it for a different reason. See, you inside your component, okay, let me show you my code and I'll be able to explain. Um, can you stop sharing the screen? Let me show you my code, then you'll be able to understand. Okay. See, so the reason why I was creating, for example, inside this card, you had this index.js. If you open this index.js, it doesn't do anything. It just imports the card and then exports it. The reason why I am creating this index.js within the card component is when you will see how it's imported in the home page. So in the home page, if you go to cards, okay. So yeah, so this is like even if you remove this, it's still gonna work. If you see in a nav bar, you have this index.js file, which is just importing it and then exporting it. In the home page, if you see that when I import this nav bar, I just move from elements directory and then to the nav bar directory. Okay. Now, if I don't have this index.js, then I have to go one level deep and specify that I want to import this navbar.js file. But because I have this index.js, the React will understand that if a folder has index.js, then all the export is going to happen from there, the main exports. And that's how in the index.js you define the exports and then you import it. So that's the reason for using index.js within your component. So it does not create any root element. Okay, root element should always be there in the parent index.js, like in the root folder, you will have this in root div created, and then you basically render your app within, or you kind of inject your app into the root div. Okay, but you do not create like in the index.js for any component, you don't create a root component there. Okay, the only reason it's used for is for for the main exports and imports. You can think of it like this, that a component has like many different parts to it, right? But when you are trying to, or when any like third party to or anything wants to, other component wants to interact with it, it would be better if we can provide them like one door through which we are going to pass in and out all the components that we require, instead of like asking them to enter into the door and then see the 1,000 doors and then choose whatever you want to choose from there. Instead of that, we just provide one door, okay, through which we are going to export it. So even if you see here in the context, okay, in the context, if you see index.js, you'll see that I have exported three things from here: the use product state hook, the use product dispatch hook, and the product context hook. So this is like one main gate. From here, you can, like, anyone who wants to use the context will just, when he imports it, he can use this gate to get access to all the three objects, and whichever he wants to use, he can use it, right? So that's the reason And but if we don't write this index.js and we write the use product dispatch in a separate file, use product state in separate file, product context in separate file, then let's say I want to use the product context, then I have to enter into the context folder, and then from a wide array of files, action types, reducers, and other things, I have to select product context. Instead of that, I have this index file which exports all the things at once. So I can just choose which one I want to use, and then I can use it. So it's like providing one main gate to all the components that are trying to get in. Okay. So that's the use of index.js in a component. It's not to create a div element or root element. So that should be created just once. If you go to our app, and if you go to the elements tab, you will see that there's only one root div, and inside this root div, your entire app gets injected. Okay. So yeah, and this one root div should always be created in the root index.js. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
that's mm,
Okay.
my
Any other questions?
okay. Maybe that's why I in my another application also I didn't get output. Maybe that is the reason. I'll check it today. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. So I every day I upload the code to the GitHub repository, so you can download the code and follow from there. So you get an idea of how the app is designed. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Any other question, guys? Okay. So let's do one thing then. Let's copy this code and push it. So open the file explorer, workspace, documents, workspace, React. Copy this and stop React training. Create a new folder. One, two. Okay, one thing, I don't want the entire thing, just want the public, well, the 4 files. So I'll come here again to the desktop, we are saving. Then go to come2, paste it here. Then just community bash. Okay. It might be due to the VPN. It is suspended. let's meet tomorrow then, and we will resume with the integration of our, of our events. We'll create events. We'll start integrating them.